You know, I've been thinking, why is there a spring break
That's a good question.
where people are off of school? And then I've always heard the term, well, back then, I would hear the term spring cleaning.
Hmm.
So was it like a period of time where we're supposed to be, I don't know, refreshing?
Well, yeah, because well back then, like talking about like 100 years ago, like the early 1900s.
Like our
What
kids tell us back in the 1900s?
what's it called? So like summer break. The reason kids didn't go to school during the summer was because they needed to be home to help harvest, like what their parents like. Um, well, like if they're like farmers, right? They would take off and do that. And for the winter, is because eventually the weather would get too bad, and because uh, back in the day, going to school you kind of had to pay for it. So like as far as like in order to keep the schoolhouse warm, there needed to be coal. So you had to like there needed to be stuff for that. And so if it was like I guess like an extra expense, it wasn't like you know and also the traveling because they didn't have cars back then, so they were having to walk. And then also teachers would have to get housed during the time. So I do know there would be spring cleaning, so it could have just been that. I don't know that it's always been a week. I don't know when that started. But I know as far as the other stuff goes, that's
See, I knew you would know.
that and slavery. But
Oh, damn.
yeah, I know. It's funny because I actually got a different perspective because I read like the Little House on the Prairie series,
Mm.
and it was very like farm based. Like, well, it's like a white family, right? So, but like the more I read, I'm like, oh, actually, even before that was because slavery. So yeah,
Damn.
yeah, you just got to do some reading. Everything, unfortunately, always leads back to race, as much as people want to say it doesn't.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
it sure does. And I'm going to save it for later, but there's a lot to talk about on this episode. Well, but really, like, since spring is upon us, I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, why is there a spring break? But that's a very good answer because I've never heard it, and I just always thought about it. And again, because of the spring cleaning term, and that hasn't been said in a while. I just figured that was being said at any age. Like I took it as right. I'm gonna clean my room and like get ready for this upcoming period of time.
well, it's like you're readjusting, like because you've been in kind of like inside, and like now it's like like the weather's nice enough to like open up the windows to like essentially because energy like gets trapped. So the like how it's like what is it, seasonal depression, or like stuff like that, kind of like those energies kind of stay locked up because like the days are shorter, it's darker for like it's easy to fall into seasonal depression, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So it's spring, it's like right, the days are starting to be longer, the weather is nicer, things are growing. So like opening up the windows and letting like the old
yeah,
air, like because air can grow stagnant. That's why they have like humidifiers and air purifiers now, like because the air grows stagnant from it just being like for people that don't open their windows and stuff. And then rearranging like
yeah,
scenery, like 'cause right, it's like eventually your space becomes again stagnant, like so you have to re-switch it up and like
yeah,
maybe lighter bedding because it won't be as you don't need the heavier blankets.
yeah. I feel like that was one of the times in my life at my mom's house where I would rearrange the room. You know, though I know I did that often. My mom could tell you that he'd always just be in there like every now and then would just decide out of the blue. to rearrange his room, like a lot. No matter what it took, I spent one whole day doing it until I was done, and then like they didn't like it because I would stay up till like 1 a.m. and I'd be playing music, and they're like, "Yo, bro, like." There's no spring break for me, you know.
All right, that's true. That's true.
My bad. You know, I remember one time asking my cousin, like, "So what you doing for spring break?" And you know, he was already out of school and had a job. He's like, "What you mean? Like, it's no spring break. Like, the hell?" Yeah, it's like
True.
the first time hearing that there wasn't gonna be recess in junior high, like such a term or thing to do. You know, like I didn't expect it to be just like elementary, but just the word recess that it just wasn't gonna be part of my life anymore. Like, but then it's funny because then you hear like the court say it. I'm
Oh,
like,
right.
what?
It's like a small break.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. Like, maybe if y'all still kept that going, I'd feel more inclined to do certain things. So I guess that was my way of uh getting out of that hump. Around that time too, now that you point those things out, that makes a lot of sense. But now I can't help to pretty much feel like that's the story of Jesus, because you have the death of the plants, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a resurrection of the sun, right? So, and then everything comes back to life.
Right.
That's what I'm starting to like feel now. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's because you're not looking at it from like a religious standpoint. Like you're looking at it from a spiritual, because you're like observing how like nature just works on its own.
Yeah, and I like how you put it. Because that's why I bring those things up, because a lot of it had to do with that, like just as myself, kind of refreshing my period of time of what seemed to me was the actual year timeline.
Well, see, and that makes more sense. And actually, the calendar used to, long time ago, I don't know what the exact dates are, but the year started with spring. But like capitalism is why we're going by the Gregorian calendar, and on top of just
Damn.
like religion, like because you would think that we would be like, why is the start of the year in like the middle of winter, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why it feels normal for you to like kind of start. Like, why do you think it takes like, by the time you're like, oh, okay, like it's the new year around this time, it's already like kind of already kicked in, because our bodies naturally are like realizing like, right, spring, it really is the start of, to restart the year.
Yeah, it wasn't until later that I started coming to the realization that winter is throughout February.
Oh, right,
And I
right,
was like, right, because I grew up watching Super Bowls and it was always cold,
right.
or like some freeze happened.
I always thought the Super Bowl was on like Thanksgiving week.
Yo, they're really throwing us off. But it's funny because we always say now though, like it used to be colder sooner. Like it was a real winter in December.
Mhm.
Really though? Was it?
No, it just, that's how it felt like, because it already been like cold for so
Well, because
long.
we used to get a lot of snow
Hmm.
every year,
Right.
and it was cool playing out there. Well, we played football out there in the snow. Yeah, at the apartment court yard. Yeah, we used to be out there like just doing stuff like to see if we don't bust our ass. Like I don't know why we did that. I'm thinking of that meme now, like or those videos where they're like, "Why women last longer."
I just saw one of those.
Didn't you share one with me?
There,
That's
well,
what it was.
one was like the one I was like at a construction site, and it's like four guys.
Oh,
Tell me why they're not throwing like a brick behind his feet, like so, like
wait, what?
Yeah, like one that I just saw. They have like the phone, like imagine it's right here. They're all looking at the phone, and then one of them just like chucks a brick, right, to see who's gonna get hit.
Yes.
Like, and
Okay,
then
I can relate.
they're like the first guy he gets out, and then the other guy like one guy, and they do have their hard hats on, but still like, cause the guy got hit here, he was like, oh, and then the other guy got hit on the head, and the other one like, I was just like, and the caption was why women like live longer than
Yeah,
men. I was like, yo, who comes up with
hilarious. That reminds me of what we used to do. My brother and I, we used to throw this like, it was piece of like chicken wire, I think,
ouch.
a little bit because I know, we have chicken wire, and it was a little bit more like
Dinner.
no, like actually closer to fence.
Oh,
It
okay.
was just wrapped up,
Mhm.
like a rug. You would like roll it out, and because we would wrestle out in the front yard, and we would throw it up in the air and then see like, you know, who's he gonna hit.
Why?
I don't know. Well, it's like grown ups where
No,
they
yeah, with the
chunk that.
arrow. Y'all have this thing for throwing stuff up and see who's gonna like get out of the way. I guess, right? Is it get out of the way fast enough?
Well, I mean, that we would just throw it because we're like, don't look up, don't try to aim, just randomly throw it up as high as you can, and then just stand, or just like pick a spot to stand and see if it's gonna hit you or not.
I, I'm dead. And I wonder why I'll get hurt.
Anyway, spring break.
I'm dead.
That's what we would do on spring break. Nah, that was more like summer. Yo, because my friend had tagged me in the post, uh, where he's like, what millennials do when they see a ladder, and it's from the same guy from that video you shared with me too. No, was it you or my sister? Where's Jeff Hardy's theme music? I think it was my sister.
Oh.
Yeah. So like she sent me something, and I'm like, oh, that's hilarious, cause like yeah, cause the guy, he's like on the ladder and he's painting his house, and then like suddenly he just randomly thinks, and then they show Jeff Hardy with the theme music, the Hardy Boys,
I'm dead.
and then he starts doing the symbols,
I'm
like,
dead. That's funny.
and then but then he tagged me up today, I think it was, on a post with the same guy, but I don't know if it was like the longer version of the post.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because like this one actually showed where he like puts out the ladder and he climbs it, and then he starts to think of it, and he's not like
Oh,
thinking of
right.
just being extreme, team extreme. If you
I'm
know,
dead.
you know.
I'm dead.
But yeah, I guess that's why some people just go to Miami.
I- Wait, but Miami City doesn't want them to go.
After all this time, well, has it been just lately that it's become very popular, like, or very populated?
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think maybe the populated part where it's like an influx of too many people like for that time, but really it's because of the damages that they're doing, like not just like maybe from like cosmetic reasons of like buildings, but like all the trash when they're going to the beaches, they're like trashing them and they're not cleaning up after themselves, like, and then because they're day drinking, right, like people are just like shit faced like during the day, and then like acting up, like can you imagine like all day they're having to deal with like drunk customers and like
Ooh,
like what, even if they're not like, let's say being rowdy, just like even the throwing up, like it's just stuff like that. And then of course like the traffic jam, can you just imagine like, and then because of whenever there's so many people, there's a lot of like the pickpocketing, like you getting like scammed, like there's like, it's just like a whole array of things that are like, and then they always say like, especially like in these that are like spring break destination points, like the sex trafficking as well. So like it's just
It's hot.
yeah, it's a lot. And
I just think because it was always been an attraction, right? All these years. So why now? Thought it was somewhat of another Vegas, in its own version. But then again, okay, but Vegas is Vegas all year round.
right,
This
and
was,
I think Vegas knows how to like deal with that. Does that make sense? Like,
but still, like, okay, I remember when I first heard about Panama City.
mm,
I literally thought these fools were going to like Panama.
right, same.
So when they were there sitting talking about ideas and shit, I'm just thinking like, damn, like, what's that cost like though? But just me, because I'm like, yeah, I can't go. Like, I was like, I wish I could, because then they were also talking about like how they were gonna, you know, like, uh, damn, what's the word? Oh, split it, right? I guess because they were all gonna be in the same like room, or how they were gonna bunk with one
Right.
another, and splitting the. Well, this is when I started realizing when they started about talking about splitting the gas.
Oh, right,
I was like, these fools are gonna drive.
right.
I was like, what you mean, right?
Like it's gonna take you the whole time to get there.
And yeah, they would eventually come back and have stories. So I was like, right, it didn't take Sexy Red and the City Girls to let me know that, because just based off like these fools, and that's when I was I think it was probably my first year in college, and I'm hearing them talk about it even probably before that. See, that's what I'm saying. Even in high school, these fools were talking about it, like from graduation, like, okay, that's like the goal there. uh so once I realized, oh, they meant over there, in Florida, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, yo, even Will Smith had a song called Welcome to Miami. Like, you know, it's just like, well, really what I'm talking about or referring to when I say why now is this ad coming out.
It's a commercial. They ran a whole commercial. They made
Who? The city?
the city.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
they're like trying to. Well, they're saying like deter, like they're just trying to be like, yeah, don't come, like, and they're like, one thing is like $100 parking.
yeah.
They're like raising the parking. They're putting a curfew in. They
I,
said there's gonna be more police act, like, in
yeah.
the area, and then I don't know. They're just trying to like pretty much like be like, yeah, it's gonna like kind of suck. Like you're not gonna be able to do what you guys have been doing for the like past years. Like,
Yeah. Because I was like, I can't blame Sexy Red, like,
oh no, I don't.
because I was like, I just thought right now, hey, like the Two Live crew, like they're from Miami, like, so I always figured, hey, I can imagine that it was going down during spring break,
Right,
and they popularized that with their music too, like, and their partying theme
right,
songs, all, you know, the time, like that was like their albums basically. And then what's it called it? Damn, what was I gonna say with that? Damn.
to not blame Sexy Red.
Well, I'm just joking about that. I'm
Oh,
just saying, like, and I was joking too, like that. I didn't need to like hear from them. But what I'm saying is like, again, because I'm wondering, why now, really, and unless that's just a way of saying like, what that's why y'all gonna be charged a lot more, you know?
or like giving them a heads up, like, hey, by the way, it's gonna be more expensive,
Yeah,
and not because of inflation.
yeah. But I mean, they wasn't all out on that ad. It's like, no, like how you say, they pointed out about its environment,
Mm-hmm.
like, and if that's what's been happening, um,
Maybe no
yeah, like,
amount of money,
huh?
really. Maybe no amount of money really is like worth it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm like, man, like, I mean, I understand. I don't got. I ain't saying nothing about like the partying and the cheating. I'm
I'm just
sorry for that.
kidding.
But my thing is like, y'all trashing the place. Like, come on now. Like, is it gotten that bad that these foods had to come out with an ad? The city, you
I
know?
mean, it happens everywhere that it's like those big destinations. They do that. Like anywhere that it's like not just like Miami. They do it in Mexico all the time. Like
Oh, okay, okay.
so, it's like it's a thing. It's just that I think they're like Miami in particular is like, hey, that's not gonna like
Oh, okay.
cut it here because you guys can't do that. Like because they do it in even in California, like at the beaches during
Yeah.
they just trash them really bad, and like a lot of people don't have like any house training to know like you gotta leave it better than when you got there. Like there should
Yeah.
be no trace of you there.
Yeah, because, take care of the earth, man. And yourselves out there, mixing it up. I don't know.
Not mixing it up.
It's just never been on my mind. Like, but I would like acknowledge it. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. MTV always had like a
Mm,
special going on that week.
right.
You know, you would see it like in how they were like
Mm,
all wilding out.
for sure, for sure. I think they still do those things. It's
Yeah,
just like, again, I think Miami's like, you guys aren't gonna do that shit here. Like,
yeah.
or start fining y'all.
Damn. Well, I just hope it really though. Like, I mean, it sucks to hear all that stuff too, though. Like, because really, I would just not ever think about it anymore. I never even considered it really. It's just again because once they came back with those stories and me realizing where it was and like I'm sorry, but that's what they made it seem like that was the whole purpose of it. And then I was like, well, nah, right? And then it just like left my mind, right? I never thought about it until recent because then you start seeing the memes like, oh, if she went to Miami, like date her or like, like that, like that's a thing, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
like red flag, or like, what they say. And I'm like, oh, for real? Like, uh, but hey,
It's crazy.
yeah. And it just, well, it just like reminded me of those stories that I would hear. And I was like, oh, see, like, okay, I just thought it was like y'all foods. And like, I'm sure, right, there's other groups, of course, we can get. That's a whole nother topic. But it's like, just like the ones that I knew that's what they did. And that was their intent, as like, you know, uh, high school graduates, some in college, and whatnot. So let's see what happens really. Like, cause now that ad going viral came out, uh, I'm kind of wondering like, okay, so are people like canceling their flights or like not caring? Like, oh well, we ain't even parking anyways. Like, well, to me, it's like because once these things go viral, then it's telling me that it means something. Like no one's done this, but you've said, well, yeah, there's been like the remember don't mess with Texas ads.
Right, but I think that the difference is just the commercial. Like I think
Oh,
it's just because they did, and then they're like calling it breaking up with spring break, and
oh, okay,
they did
okay.
it like funny, like how like you would, I guess, like kind of like a red flags kind of thing, like if they do this, like
Ain't nobody really trying to do anything but make money right now. That's what that sounds like.
yeah, because I mean, unless it's just like they've been trying to enforce it years before and it wasn't working, so now they're like, right now we're gonna invest in like
AI to
in
come clean this shit up.
I'm dead. What's it called? To I guess I don't know, like or unless they're I don't know, unless they're trying to go viral. Like it was just like funny that they did like a commercial with it.
True, and just to be like, hey, well, and that's why you're gonna expect high rates.
Right, right. So
Look
just so
forward
y'all
to
know, right, right.
it. Like that's all we're
They're
saying.
like make
That's
make
just
their pockets hurt.
yeah. There you go. There you go. They're like, hey, we're not saying you can't come.
Right. Just be aware that
Yeah.
this is what's
Hey, they're
happening.
giving y'all a heads up.
Right.
So